In this video, we'll study about the histology of thymus, tonsil and the mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. The thymus is situated in the thorax and at birth the thymus weighs about 10 to 15 grams and the weight increases to 30 to 40 grams at puberty. Subsequently, much of the organ is replaced by fat. However, the thymus is believed to produce T lymphocytes throughout the life. And when you see the thymus consists of the right and left lobes that are joined together by fibrous tissue, and each lobe has a connective tissue capsule. Connective tissue septa passing inward from the capsule incompletely subdivide the lobe into number of lobules. Each lobule is about 2 mm in diameter and it has an outer cortex and inner medulla. Both the cortex and medulla contain cells of two distinct lineage. We'll see in detail below, and the medulla of the adjoining lobules is continuous. The thymus has a rich blood supply and it does not receive any lymph vessels but gives off efferent vessels. In this picture you can see this is the capsule, and from the capsule you have the connective tissue septa or the trabeculae, which incompletely subdivide the lobe into several lobules. When you see in the lobule, you have an outer cortex. So this is the cortex and this is the medulla. So outer cortex and medulla. And the medulla of the adjoining lobules are continuous with each other. Next we'll see about the epithelial cells or epitheliocytes. Embryologically, these cells are derived from the endodermal lining of the third pharyngeal pouch. The cells lose all contact with the pharyngeal wall. Later, they become flattened and they may branch, and the cells join to form a sheet that cover the internal surface of the capsule, the surface of the septa and the surfaces of the blood vessels. The epithelial cells lying deeper in the lobule develop processes and they join with the similar process of the other cell and they form a reticulum. It may be noted that this reticulum is cellular and has no similarity to the reticulum formed by the reticular fibers in the lymph node and the spleen. The epithelial cells of the thymus are not phagocytic. It has been suggested that the sheath of epithelial cells present deep to the capsule, around the septa, around the blood vessels, they form an effective blood-thymus barrier that prevents the antigen present in the blood from reaching the lymphocyte present in the thymus. The epitheliocytes also promote T cell differentiation and proliferation. In this picture, you can see these are the epitheliocyte that forms the reticulum, and this is the blood thymus barrier. So this is the capillary wall and this is the perivascular connective tissue, and these are the epithelio-reticular cell layer, and these are the developing T lymphocytes. This barrier prevents the antigen which is present in the blood from reaching the lymphocyte which is present in the thymus. On the basis of structural differences, several types of epitheliocytes are recognized. You have the type 1 epitheliocytes which line the inner aspect of the capsule, septa and the blood vessels, and these are the cells that forms the partial hemothymic barrier which is mentioned before. Then you have the type 3 and type 4 cells which are present in the outer and the inner part of the cortex respectively. The type 4 cells, they lie in the deeper part of the cortex and in the medulla. They form a network which contain the spaces that are occupied by lymphocytes. The type 5 cells are present around the corpuscles of the Hazal. or basal corpuscles. The cortical epitheliocytes are also described as the thymic nerve cells, and they destroy the lymphocytes that react against self-antigen. Next we'll see about the lymphocytes of the thymus that are called as the thymocytes. In the cortex of each lobule of the thymus, the reticulum formed by the epithelial cells is densely packed with lymphocytes. Stem cells formed in the bone marrow travel to the thymus. Here they come to lie in the superficial part of the cortex, and they divide repeatedly to form small lymphocytes. The lymphatic nodules are not present in the normal thymus. The medulla of each lobule also contain lymphocytes, but they are less densely packed than in the cortex. As a result, the epithelial reticulum is more obvious in the medulla than in the cortex. As thymocytes divide, they pass deep into the cortex and into the medulla. Ultimately, they leave the thymus by passing into the blood vessels and the lymphatics. Apart from the epithelial cells and the lymphocytes, the thymus contains a fair number of macrophages. The macrophages, which belongs to the mononuclear phagocyte system. They are placed subjacent to the capsule, corticomedullary junction, and in the medulla. The subcapsular macrophages are highly phagocytic, and deeper lying macrophages are dendritic cells. Next we'll see about the basal corpuscle. So these are small rounded structure present in the medulla of the thymus. Each corpuscle has a central core which is formed by the epithelial cells that have undergone degeneration. These cells ultimately stain pink hyaline mass, and around this mass there is a wall which is formed by concentrically arranged epitheliocytes. So these cells also stain bright pink with hematoxylin and eosin. The central mass of the corpuscle may also contain degenerating macrophages. The functional significance of the corpuscles is not understood. Next we'll see the function of the thymus. First we'll see the role of thymus in lymphopoiesis. The stem cells from the bone marrow that reach the superficial part of the cortex divide repeatedly to form smaller lymphocytes. It has been postulated that during these mitosis, the DNA of the lymphocytes undergo numerous random mutation, as a result of which different lymphocytes acquire the ability to recognize a very large number of different proteins and to react to them. The lymphocytes, they should not react against the body's own protein, and all lymphocytes that would react against the body's own protein are destroyed. It is for this reason that 90% of lymphocytes formed in the thymus are destroyed within 3 to 4 days. The remaining lymphocytes that react only against the foreign protein to the body are thrown into the circulation as circulating immunologically competent T lymphocytes. They lodge themselves in the secondary lymph organs like lymph nodes, spleen, etc., where they multiply to form further T lymphocytes of their own type when exposed to appropriate antigen. So from above, it is understood that the thymus is a primary lymphoid organ. It has been held that within the thymus, the lymphocytes are not allowed to come into contact with foreign antigen because of the presence of blood thymic barrier. It has also been said that because of the thymocytes do not develop into large lymphocytes or into plasma cells, and they do not form lymphatic nodules. The medulla is regarded as a separate compartment. After thymocytes move into the medulla, they probably come into contact with the antigen presented to them through the dendritic macrophages. Such contact may be a necessary step in making the T lymphocytes competent to distinguish between the foreign antigen and the protein of the body itself. The proliferation of the T lymphocytes and their conversion into cells capable of reacting to antigen probably takes place under the influence of the hormone produced by the epithelial cells of the thymus. The T lymphocytes are also influenced by the direct cell contact with epitheliocytes. The hormones produced by the thymus may also influence the lymphopoiesis in the peripheral lymphoid organ. This influence appears to be especially important in early life as lymphoid tissue do not develop normally if thymus is removed. Thymectomy has much less influence after puberty as the lymphoid tissue have fully developed by then. A number of hormones produced by the thymus have now been identified and they are produced by epitheliocytes. So first is the thymulin, which enhances the function of various types of T cells, especially that of suppressor cells. The next hormone is the thymopoietin, which stimulates the production of cytotoxic T cells, and the combined action of thymulin and thymopoietin allows precise balance of activity of cytotoxic and suppressor cells. Then the third hormone is thymosin alpha 1, which stimulates the lymphocyte production and also the production of antibodies. Then the thymosin beta 4 hormone is produced by the mononuclear phagocytes. The thymic humoral factor that controls the multiplication of helper and suppressor T cells. Apart from their actions on lymphocytes, the hormone produced in the thymus probably influence the adenohypophysis and the ovaries. In turn, the activity of the thymus is influenced by hormones produced by the adenohypophysis, by adrenal cortex and by sex hormones. Next we'll see the clinical correlation. Enlargement of the thymus is often associated with the disease called myasthenia gravis. In this condition, there is a great weakness of the skeletal muscle. So here the thymus is enlarged and there may be a tumor in it. Removal of the thymus may result in improvement in some cases. The myasthenia gravis is now considered to be a disturbance of the immune system, and there are some protein to which the acetylcholine released at the motor end plate get attached. In myasthenia gravis, antibodies are produced against these proteins, rendering them ineffective. The myasthenia gravis is an example of a condition in which the immune system begins to react against one of the body's own protein. Such conditions are referred to as autoimmune disease. Next we'll see the histology of palatine tonsil. Each palatine tonsil consists of diffuse lymphoid tissue in which the lymphatic nodules are present. The lymphoid tissue is covered by stratified squamous epithelium continuous with that of the mouth and the pharynx. This epithelium extends into the substance of the tonsil in the form of several tonsillar crypt. The lumen of the crypt usually contains some lymphocytes that may have traveled into it through the epithelium. Desquamated epithelial cells are present in the crypt along with the bacteria. When you see the clinical correlation, tonsillitis is an infection of the palatine tonsil. The palatine tonsils are often infected. It is a common cause of sore throat. Frequent infections can lead to considerable enlargement of the tonsil, especially in children. Such enlarged tonsil may become a focus of infection and their surgical removal, which is known as the tonsillectomy, may be necessary. Next we'll see about the mucosa associated lymphoid tissue, the MALT. Aggregation of the lymphocytes are seen in relation to the mucosa of the respiratory, alimentary and urogenital tract, which are referred to as mucosa associated lymphoid tissue, the MALT. The volume of MALT is more or less equal to that of the lymphoid tissue present in the lymph node and the spleen. The mucosa associated aggregation of the lymphoid tissue have some features in common. They are, these aggregation are in the form of one or more lymphatic follicles or nodules having a structure similar to the nodule of the lymph node. The germinal centers may be present, and then you have the diffuse lymphoid tissue which are termed as the parafollicular zone, which is present in the interval between the nodules. The nodule contain predominantly B lymphocytes, whereas the diffuse area contain T lymphocytes. These masses of lymphoid tissue are present in very close relationship to the lining epithelium of the mucosa in the region concerned, and they lie in the substantia propria. The larger aggregation extend into the submucosa, and individual lymphocytes may infiltrate the epithelium and they may pass into the lumen. The aggregation are not surrounded by a capsule, nor do they have the connective tissue septa. A supporting network of reticular fibers is present. As a rule, these masses of lymphoid tissue do not receive afferent lymph vessels and have no lymph sinuses. They do not serve as a filter of lymph. However, they are the centers of lymphocyte production, and the lymphocytes produced here pass into the lymph node of the region through the efferent lymphatic vessels. Some lymphocytes pass through the overlying epithelium into the lumen. Mucosa associated lymphoid tissue in the respiratory system. In the respiratory system, the aggregation are relatively small and they are present in the walls of the trachea and large bronchi. The term bronchial associated lymphoid tissue is applied to these aggregation. The mucosa associated lymphoid tissue in the alimentary system is also called as the gut associated lymphoid tissue, that is GALT, G-A-L-T. In the alimentary system, the examples of aggregation of lymphoid tissue are tonsil, Peyer's patches and lymphoid nodules in the vermiform appendix.